I own $40 million worth of real estate that I bought without using a dime of my own money. Woohoo, good for me. How does that help you? I've been listening to you and your feedback and me talking about my 300th property and you trying to get into your first property. There's a disconnect there. So what I want to do to solve that and to help you as much as I can is I want to go back and go over my first 10 properties one by one. This video is going to be about my very first property. I'm going to talk about how I bought it, how I funded it, and walk you through the BRRRRS method so that you can experience what I experienced then, but we also have this perspective now of what I've learned since then. So you're going to get the best of both worlds. You're going to get a newbie perspective and an experienced perspective, and we're going to walk through each deal case study style. I'm going to show you things today that you can start now that will actually lead towards you getting your first investment property. As I said earlier, my name is Sam and I've bought $40 million worth of real estate without using any of my own money. I love breaking down apartment complex deals or talking about my development deals that I've worked on, but that's not what this video is about. This video is going to be about my very first property. I'm going to walk you from the very beginning to how everything worked until the refinance of the BRRRRS method, and then I'm going to talk about what I've learned since then. This video is going to help you get started today, so let's get started now. So back in 2014, I didn't own any real estate, but I knew that I wanted to own real estate. My plan was to buy one rental property a year for 10 years, then after 10 years start to pay them off. So my whole goal was to have 10 rental properties. I did not have this huge, large vision of buying millions and millions of dollars worth of real estate and owning $1 billion in real estate, which is my goal now. We got it through a realtor as a pre-foreclosed property that was getting ready to be foreclosed on by the bank. Back in 2014, this was a little more prevalent and this was a lot better deal source than it is today. So I remember going to look at maybe 20, 30, 40 properties over a 2-month period where we were walking through them, making offers on them, did not have a formula that we were using to make offers. We were literally just visiting the property, trying to figure out about how much it needed in repairs, and then trying to get it for less than it was listed for. That didn't really work for 20 to 30 properties, like I said, but eventually we got one and we actually got the deal. Our plan on this initial property was to buy it, fix it up and sell it and take the profit that we made on it and put that down on a rental property. On this first property, I didn't even know about the BRRRRS method and I didn't even know about 80% cash out refinances. So this ended up becoming a rental, but that was not the plan and that was not what happened until we were about 60% way through the project. The plan was to fix it up and sell it. I knew that I didn't have to use any of my own money. I knew you could use other people's money to buy and sell a property. I didn't know about the refinance and the long-term note. I just knew that a private lender would lend me money to buy it and fix it up and sell it. So they got their money back in 3 to 6 months, maybe 9 months. I didn't think a private lender would want to have a 30-year mortgage, which I was right, they don't. So I didn't know how to buy rental properties unless I was going to be putting 20% down and taking it to the bank. All right, so let's walk through the BRRRRS method and talk about each step and how this property fit in. If you don't know what the BRRRRS method is, check out this video up here. I have a ton of videos about it on this channel, but basically what it stands for is buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and scale. And this is the method that I have used to buy that $40 million worth of real estate without using any of my own money that I've talked about and subtle bragged on a few times in this video. So we bought this distressed property as a private money lender for $77,000. It needed about $20,000 worth of rehab, the next step. So we borrowed $97,000 from our private money lender to buy and fix up that rental property. So we had $97,000 of this private lender's money in that investment property. It was fixed up and it was ready to get rented. So what did we do? We got it rented for $1,250 to a tenant that stayed for about 3 years. So now that this property that was distressed is fixed up now, got a great tenant in place, paying us rent, we need to get our private lender his money back without using any of ours, plus interest. So that's where this next step came into play, this refinance step. And I actually learned about this talking to my real estate mentor that I didn't know was going to be my mentor, that became my business partner, Brian. I met him at this time and he told me about the refinance. I told him my plan to buy, fix up, sell, use the profit to put 20% down. He said, why don't you just take your fixed up rental property, if you have equity in it, to a small local bank. They'll do an 80% cash out refinance and they will literally cut you a check for 80% of the appraised value. And then you take that check and pay off your lender and then you keep it as a rental property. You have a mortgage on it, but that's what you would do if you put 20% down. You'd have a mortgage on it also. So you're just backing into that 20% 80% down by creating 20% equity. So that kind of blew my mind. I didn't really understand that. I'll explain a little bit more if you didn't quite understand that. But basically, we just did what he said. We contacted maybe 20 local banks, and most of them said no because we were talking to Bank of America's and Commerce Banks and a few small local banks that didn't really understand the process. But as soon as we got in front of the right small local bank, they said, sure, we'll send out an appraiser. We'll give you a check for 80% of the appraised value that you have to pay off over 25 years on a mortgage. So that's what we did. They sent out an appraiser and the property appraised for $125,000. 80% of $125,000 is $100,000. So they wrote us a check for $100,000. We owed our private lender 97 plus interest, so he got his 97 back plus $3,000 in interest, which is a little bit shy of what we actually owed him per our term sheet. More on that later. But he got his money back and most of his interest back, and now we owe the bank $100,000. But that's paid off over 25 years in a mortgage. The payment's $600 or $700 a month, and we were collecting $1,250 a month. So we had enough rent coming in to cover the mortgage, plus all other owning expenses, taxes, insurance, and a few small things. Plus we were making about $200 a month of positive net cash flow. So that was a lot baked into that, but that's how my first property ended up going. Now let's talk a little bit more about the lessons learned at the time and looking back the lessons that I've learned over time. So the first lesson learned at the time was I learned about the BRRRRS method. I learned that you could buy properties distressed with other people's money and fix them up and then go to the bank, and the bank pays back the person you borrowed the money from, and you owe the bank over a long period of time a little bit of money every single month. So basically, I just learned about leveraging debt and creating wealth that has bought $40 million worth of real estate over the past 7 years since then. I learned about this method that can be used to buy apartment complexes, single family rentals, storage facilities, all of those which are going to be covered in this series about my first 10 deals and what I learned from them. But I learned about the BRRRRS method and the refinance step on this first property, and that was huge for me. Also, I learned a formula to buy properties going forward in the future. As I said earlier, I just put offers on properties and tried to get them at less than they were offered for, assuming that that was a deal if I got it less than they were asking. While it worked out or close to worked out on this deal, that's not a good way to scale or grow any business. The formula that I use now to buy any type of property, whether it's a wholesale flip or a rental, is the max allowable offer formula. It's ARV, which is after repair value, times 75% minus repair. So let's use this first property as an example. The ARV was $125,000, that's what it appraised for, and that's about what I thought it was worth. So I would have been right there. Then you multiply that by 75%, which is a little less than $94,000. Then minus the $20,000 in repairs got me to $74,000. So if I were using this formula and I would have bought this property at the right number, I would have bought it at $74,000 instead of $77,000, and that initial $3,000 that I should have had would have been more than enough to pay back my private lender his full amount. Plus I would have been able to pocket a couple grand that I could have used as equity or just had in the bank account. So having an actual formula and a structure to make offers on properties was definitely something I learned in this one. I also learned that municipalities can be a pain in the ass. I was trying to get an occupancy inspection in this specific municipality here in St. Louis. I remember the inspector came out and failed us a couple separate times. He would come out and say, this looks good, but you need to fix this, this, and this. And we would fix those things. He would come out and he would point out other things. This happened a few different times. I learned that they can kind of do whatever they want. So you need to develop a relationship with the inspectors. You need to be communicative with them. You need to fix exactly what they say. And you need to try and just make sure everything is buttoned up. Certain inspectors and certain municipalities have little hot ticket items or hot button items for them that they always check, but they overlook other things. So you just learn over time the inspectors and kind of learn the whole dog and pony show to what they like and don't like, and just tailor your project and your finishes to what the inspectors like if you're going to keep it as a rental. All right, the main lesson I learned over time on this one is what I've coined as the passive wealth trifecta. Over the past 7 years, the property has gone up in value from $125,000 to $200,000, and my mortgage on the property has gone from $100,000 down to $75,000. So without using any of my own money, I now have $125,000 worth of equity in this one property. Plus, I've been able to capture about $200 a month cash flow over the past 7 years. So that's that passive wealth trifecta that just shows you the power of real estate over time. This one property's got me over $100,000 in net worth and equity, plus a decent amount of cash flow. And the cool thing about the passive wealth trifecta is you can do it over 10 properties. You can do it over 100 properties. You can do it over almost 300 properties like I have. So you can create massive scale and massive wealth by taking one property and multiplying it and utilizing that equity over many properties. And that's where you can create generational type wealth and become a multimillionaire through the equity in your rental properties that you can buy without using any of your own money through the BRRRRS method. I know that was a lot for one video. That's why I'm creating this series where I'm going to do 9 more examples and break down different levels of the BRRRRS method. So by the end of these 10 videos, you will be an expert at the BRRRRS method. Therefore, you will be an expert at creating financial freedom without using any of your own money, and you will have no more excuses besides going out and taking action. But this is the first video, so there might not be other ones out yet if you're watching this one. So check out this video over here where I walk through the BRRRRS method and talk about specifically what I'm seeing at each step in a real life property with before and after pictures. Check it out. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. See you on the next one.